Hello again everybody and welcome back to Fujitsu Blitz, and yes, it's the Aces of the Week gallery again, this time focusing just on the seal clubbers, I mean the low tiers. Sorry, that was just a slip of the tongue, and boy have we got some great games for you. The thing is, people very rarely go out on the lower tiers now. In the lower tiers here, we're looking at tiers 1 and 4. And first off, I've got a very good friend of mine, StanleytheFort of FTC 5, rolling out in the AMX40 the French tier 4 collector medium tank on the EU server. Now, I absolutely used to love this tank until the great culling that was 5.5. The thing is, if you're a new player, you can't get your paws on this tank currently because it's a collector. So you have to sort of have it in your garage before the grand culling in 5.5. If you did have it in the garage before the grand culling of 5.5, then this is a shadow of its former self. Because when they did 5.5, everything got dumbed down a hell of a lot. So the damage is dumbed down. I mean, the penetration is still the penetration. The arm has been dumbed down a little bit. And the gameplay has just been slowed right down. Now, I'm not going to go into the characteristics of the tank. I see little point. If you want to know how the tank works, get yourself onto Blitzhanger. Everything in there is listed as what you need to know. What we're looking at now on these low tiers is primarily the gameplay. Now, when this first came out, this tank was a beast, and to be fair, I thought it was slightly OP because its armor was almost nigh on impossible to penetrate in this tier. It was a bit like the Matilda. The gun was a dream. It dished out reasonable damage and in a reasonable quick time. And this was basically like a French Matilda, simple as that. And it's slow as hell. I mean, they haven't really changed much on that, but as you can see here with StanleytheFort, he's still bouncing everything. The damage he's dishing out isn't as big as it used to be, but it's still pretty reasonable for a tier 4. And it will still pen almost everything that it comes across. He's hardly bounced anything. He's done what, 500 damage, because it's now, you know, the aftermath of 5.5, and he's bounced about 360. And, you know, he's on mines because you don't get very many maps now in the low tiers. You get what, mines, Mirage, Copperfield, to name but a few, and you don't get supremacy because it's below tier 5. And when you've got tier 4 games, there is no supremacy anymore. He still gets camo, even though he's below tier 5. He still gets all the ammunition, I believe. He gets the AP, he gets the heat, and he gets the HE. And he still gets 3 consumables. It's not tiers 1, 2, or 3. Now, the thing is, when they did do 5.5, I did slightly agree with slowly easing new players into the game. So having less ammunition selection at tiers 1, 2 is actually not a bad idea. I don't know if all the consumables and unlocking and all that sort of stuff is a good thing. I mean, I don't think there's anything wrong with consumables. Why can't you have more than one consumable? Why can you only just have the all-singing, all-dancing repair kit? You should be able to have the first aid kits and everything. It doesn't really add much to the game. I don't think it detracts too much from these poor people who are just starting out in Blitz from the gameplay, but hey, that's not, you know, that was Wargaming's idea. They seem to think that it was going to be useful, so it's here to stay. And as you can see, however, StanleytheFort, he's doing pretty well here. He's killed one tank. He's dished out shy of 1,000 damage. It's a tier 4 game. You know, 1,000 damage is a pretty big load nowadays. And he's bounced shy of 1,000 as well. This thing will still bounce, even after it's been nerfed. So, this tank's still a good tank. And as I've said in previous videos, 5.5, unfortunately, guys, is here to stay. And, you know, we can moan, we can whinge about it for as long as the world turns. Fact is, we need to accept it's here, and we have to try and adjust our gameplay accordingly. And StanleytheFort has done so. Now, you could turn around, because, you know, StanleytheFort's a good player, and you could say, oh, well, he's a seal clubber. Oh, come on, guys. I mean, there's nothing in the rules that say you can't, on occasion, go back and play your tier 1s to 5s. I mean, I'm a tank collector. I venture down to the lower tiers every now and then. A very good friend of mine, Amunetta, you know, if you've seen her videos on her site, she loves the low tiers, and why not? you know, they're there to be played. And I don't subscribe to the view that you can't play them. I subscribe to the view that, you know, if you've done 20,000 games, 19,000 have been in Tier 1, there's a bit of an issue. But each to their own. If you wanna play Tier 1 tanks and just Tier 1 tanks, who am I to tell you you can't? So I know StanleytheFort's not a Seal Clubber. A lot of people are accused, all three players in this review, this vlog, of being Seal Clubbers. They're not. They just enjoy rolling out in the tanks that they've got. That's a well-deserved mastery. 1,400 damage, which is a lot of damage at this tier. I mean, that's a great way to roll out in the AMX40. And I'd like to thank my good friend StanleytheFort for sharing that replay with us. Next up, another good friend of mine from my clan. Yay! Edmarca, FTC1. Double yay! In the R35, the French Tier 1 light tank, Seal Clubber, on the EU server. Now, yes, okay. I've just said anybody can drive these tanks. And Edmarca's gone out. You know, it's good to go out in the low tiers, guys. Nobody says you can't do it. And I don't want 100 comments saying, oh, damn Seal Clubbers. They're not Seal Clubbing. Seriously. If you look at the stats of Edmarca, he goes into his lower tier tanks, you know, once in a blue moon. I mean, crikey, I go out in the low tier tanks once in a blue moon. There's nothing wrong with it. We're not doing it to stat paddle. And if you are looking to stat paddle in the low tiers, believe me, you may get your win rate up, but your damage is going to be unbelievably low. It's as simple as that. And it depends what sort of stats you want. I mean, there's no point being a 65% win rate player with a damage average of like 400, 500. There's no fun in that. You know, you get to the higher tiers and all of a sudden it's a completely different game. So there's no harm in going back down and having a bit of fun in the low tiers. Just don't do like 12,000 games in Tier 1 if you've only done 15,000 games full time. Back to the point. This tank again has been nerfed to oblivion. This one only comes with one consumable, and there you can see it there, it's the all singing, all dancing repair kit, and it comes with one type of ammunition, the standard AP. Now, the other thing that they did, the grinding of credits is pretty sorrowful down in the lower tiers now, and which is quite good, to be honest with you, because it allowed people to rush through the tiers. Now it stops them rushing to an extent. I still have a big whinge that people are still rushing through the tiers because the tech trees have been streamlined. And in fairness, you can get to tier 5 in about a day if you put in the graft. And I don't agree with that. I agree with what they've done though, with slowing the game down and gently easing new players into it. That I fully agree with, because everybody whinges and moans that people, you know, with not enough battles are going out and sort of ruining the higher tiers. You're always going to get that, guys. With premium tanks galore at tier 8, etc., etc., you're going to get new players buying those tanks and going out. My complaint with the low tiers and the 5.5 culling is the following. By all means, streamline the tech tree, but don't make it so streamlined that with, you know, only a fair few hundred battles, you can suddenly get to tier 5. You've learnt nothing, to be honest with you. Make it slightly more hard to get there. Don't make it so quick. And I know new players want to rush to the big tanks, but what they do, they get to the big tanks and they get wasted by the better players anyway, who know how to handle the big tanks. So it's, you know, it's unbelievable. Anyway, Edmarca here is doing really well. He's taken out 3 tanks. He's done less than 1,000 damage, which is to be expected at tier 1, because your damage is pretty low. I mean, everything's pretty low. And as you can see, when you watch these low tier games now, they don't last a couple of minutes. They almost last the full 7. I mean, it's now 3-on-1. He's in an R35. I mean, I haven't commentated on an R35 in my life, and this is a new experience for me too. In fact, I can't remember the last time I went out in the R35. I think I went out in it about a month ago because I just wanted the mastery in it, and I got the mastery. Then I shelved it again. But he's doing really well here. I mean, look at this. He's wasting tanks left, right, and centre, and he's still done less than 1,000 damage. I mean, it's just fantastic. And the game has only got like 1 minute 50 to go. He gets a Kolobanov. He gets 3 kills. He holds the line. He does 865 damage. He gets a well-deserved mastery. Look at the credits. He gets 2,000 credits. That is brilliant. I mean, it's just fantastic. He would have got 4,000 credits had he been on a premium account. So, as you can see, the grind in the lower tiers is a lot harder than people think. It's not as straightforward anymore. Anyway, I'd like to thank my friend edmarca of FTC1. Yay! For kindly sharing that replay with us, you dirty, horrible seal clubber. Next up, another good friend of mine, Indy from the clan BTSV. Now, he's rolling out in the T28 Mod 1940, the Russian Tier 4 collector medium tank, again on the EU server. Now, lots of people have whinged about this tank because during 5.5 it was nerfed to oblivion when it was changed to a collector. And Indy, in fairness, sent me the email with the replay and said, loads of people have moaned about this tank. You can still have good fun in it. And that's why he sent me the replay. Okay, he gets a mastery. But that wasn't the point of his email. His email was, you can still have good fun in this tank. It's not as bad as people are making out. You just have to adapt your gameplay. And as you see here, look, it's a typical Tier 4 game. Virtually the entire red team is camped in the TBD position. I just love Tier 4 players. I mean, this is what you get in the low tiers now. I mean, the poor new players don't really know what to do. They haven't got a clue. And you know, I'm not surprised that they're all hanging around there, because if you haven't played many games and you're new to it, nobody really knows what to do. They think, well, you've got to hide and you've got to be careful, and to an extent you have, and this is all part of the learning curve. And bless him, Indy, okay, he's played a fair few games, but he's not a dirty seal clubber. He hasn't played a majority of his games in the lower tiers. But like most of us, he enjoys rolling out in the lower tier tanks on occasion. And there's nothing wrong with that. And I get, it really does sort of grind me when loads of people moan about seal clubbing. Look, it's like this. If you've done 20,000 games, and let's say 15,000 games are in tiers 1, 2, and 3, then you're a seal clubber. Of course you are. But if you've done 20,000 games and say, I don't know, 1,000 are in the lower tiers, then you haven't. It's a simple fact of life, guys. You know, it's a progression. And sometimes I like going back and playing the lower tier tanks. I love the DW2. I love the Matilda. I mean, I love the AMX-40. I love the D2. I love the B1. I mean, I love these tanks. So why can't I play them? I used to love the Hetzer. Not so much anymore, to be honest with you. But there's nothing wrong with going back down to the lower tiers and having a bit of fun. You're not doing it to stat paddle. As I said in the last game, if you're looking to stat paddle, okay, you may increase your win rate, but you're not going to increase your damage or your XP or the other things that really matter. There's no point having a 60-odd% win rate if your damage is only 400 and your average XP is only 200. I mean, what's the point in that? There isn't. Indy, edmarca, and StanleytheFort all rolled out in these tanks because they enjoy playing tanks. Simple fact of life. And as I say, there's no rule to say you can't. Indy's doing really well here. Again, he's just over 750 damage here. He's bounced 130. He's only taken 1 kill. And again, because of the grand culling of 5.5, everything is slowed right down because the damage isn't as big, you know, and the tanks aren't as fast anymore. And it's good for, well, I say that, and that A20 is still running around like a nutter. But the thing is, the A20, bless it, it's no longer the tank it used to be. It's such a shame. I mean, okay, I get that the one gun on it was a Seal Clubber's paradise. But it was a fantastic tank. And, you know, what annoys me is that we lost content because of my minority. I mean, I never used to play the T20 that often. But it would have been nice to go out with that stupid gun every now and then, not to club seals, just because it was fun. That is a fantastic game by Indy, just shy of 1,000. get a fantastic mastery. 13,000 credits, again, slightly on the low side. It's tier 4 now, remember. So the grind is a little bit harder. But, I mean, that's just a fantastic game. And I'd like to thank Indy of BTSV for kindly supplying that replay for us. In fact, I want to thank everybody. I want to thank StanleytheFort and edmarca for supplying their replays for us as well. You dirty, rotten seal clubbers. Seriously, I'm only joking, guys. Anyway, if you've got any replays that you want to share with the rest of the world, well, at least 300 odd people within the rest of the world, by all means do so. Usual email address, fujitsblitz@gmail.com. If you want to, press subscribe. It costs you nothing and it makes me happy. And I'd like you to comment and like if you really want. And with that, stay safe out there, guys. Have fun on the battlefield and happy tanking. Because, hey, that's what it's all about. Fun and happiness.